Welcome to the Movie Vault. I'm David Lynch.
And I'm Zach.
Today we are reviewing a movie that I made back in 2001. It's something of a movie that started as, well, it really started when I was sipping a cup. Well, let me set the scene here, okay? I was in my house in Los Angeles. I had just brewed a cup of coffee in the morning. Every morning I wake up, I meditate, and then I start.
How do you meditate?
It's transcendental meditation. You kind of have to learn what that means before you do it. So I'm not going to explain it. Otherwise we'd be here all day. And plus I don't really explain things. I'm David Lynch. Okay. It's a feeling. All right. You have feelings, Zach. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So yes, and then I had this thought. What if I made a love story in the city of dreams? Because I live in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the city of dreams. And I like love stories. So that was my thought. And I sipped on my coffee after I had been working on my painting.
What's your painting about?
It was sort of an abstract piece. And it was also about dreams and love, because love is sort of at the center of every everything is rooted in love. You know, and everything is like a distortion of love if it's not love. So all of my paintings, I can really link back to that. Okay.
I believe you.
So anyway, this was a cool idea, but as you know, producers they're not always initially attracted to my ideas. So sometimes it takes years for them to, and they're not always finished products. You know, everything happens in the right timing.
Yeah, I believe you.
So yeah, and we were going to make this TV show. So I was like, sure. Because that's sort of how I make business decisions. It's like, oh, do you want to do this? Sure. If you'll give me the money, I'll do it. You know, but it's not really about the money, but then I need the money for it to be made. It's not, Zach, most people think that I'm these paintings and things are making me tons of money, but they're sorely mistaken. I can only afford to eat at Bob's Big Burger every meal and eat tuna sandwiches, you know? So, and Lost Highway I made, some people liked it. Some people didn't like it. I didn't even really know, because I don't really read any it's on to the next thing, you know, Zach? It's always on,
I believe you.
Do you think I even, it's shocking I'm even talking about any sort of criticism, because film is all really rooted in love. So that, you know, that's kind of my thought. And as long as I know I loved the project and the project was made out of the love of my heart, you know, I really don't need. Anyway, that's that. So the TV show, I made it a little. The producers they thought it was gonna be like Twin Peaks again, and it didn't turn out that way. Initially, I thought, well, maybe I can make it, kind of but no, it really wasn't like that. So then I kind of thought, all right, this is a kind of a cool. I had that hotel thing that I did for HBO, and they didn't like that. So I thought it was going to be kind of this is for Zach Leewalds to watch on YouTube in 20 years, and kind of be like, this is cool that I'm watching another thing of mine that they didn't know about.
It was great.
But then I was like, well, I know these French people and they give me money, so I'll make a movie. And so we reshot some things and we added some things. And we used some of the original footage, and that here we are.
Oh, thank you so much.
And what I want you to know, Zach, is that it was all rooted in love. So that's the takeaway.
Yeah, I definitely felt love in this film. I felt a lot of love.
I hope you felt something. I don't know if you know this, Zach.
Okay.
I know you've reviewed a lot of my movies, but it's not about. It's about the feelings. it makes me sad when moviegoers don't understand. They're not in touch with their feelings. They go to escape their feelings.
Yeah.
Feelings are,
Yeah.
the root of lots of, good and also bad things.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, David.
Well, I really got to be going, and
where are you off to?
I'm off. Well, I got to paint. So
Okay.
I'll see you later, Zach.
Well, I'll let you get to it.
Hey, Ben.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Zach. I was running behind. Was that David Lynch?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I know.
There's some crazy things that happen in the vault this late at night.
I know. It was the spirit of David Lynch was visiting us. Today we are going to review 2001's Mulholland Drive, a 9/11 film. And we will dig right into this crazy, maybe magnum opus of Lynch. It's his highest, obviously, appraised film. Considered one of the greatest movies of all time by many of the highest critics in the entire universe, if we are considering Earth to be all of that comprises life in the universe. Now, it also is one of the most out there productions given to humanity, to be quite honest. We always compare David Lynch to any of his works to his end piece, his magnum opus, in our opinion, which is Inland Empire, which was probably his most out there. I would say this is a close second. I think this film is his let me throw paint at the wall and make something beautiful. But I am aiming the paint. I am going to smear the paint in specific directions on purpose, and I'm going to create something that is randomly beautiful and organized. And the chaos and order in this film, the balance of it is pretty beautiful. We have both seen it twice?
Yes.
Okay. This was my second time, and I will just say it's not like I understand it better the second time. I think I still had to research some things. I still had to look some things up. What was your change in reaction from the first to the second?
I do think that having spent a lot of time with Lynch this year, and maybe just more time with Lynch in general, that some of the things that struck me as odd in the first viewing were now sort of like I was immersed in the Lynch vocabulary and way of doing things. I was noticing reading I read a lot of negative Google reviews just from the general public viewing audience who watched this movie. And there's a lot of comments about the acting being bad, which I was like, I thought the acting was pretty good, but that's because I'm expecting Lynch to direct these people in a certain way that makes sense to me now that I've watched his movies.
It is a language.
So some of that made more sense to me. The story itself, you're right. I'm not sure that it's abundantly more clear, but I think I've also watched more stuff and listened to more stuff about this movie since I watched it the first time and could kind of figure out some of the things a little bit quicker that you can figure out. And I think there are some maybe a little bit more obvious reads that you could make of this movie and theorize about, as opposed to Inland Empire, which is so much looser and more expansive.
Yes. It's hard not to compare these films.
Yeah.
Stories within stories. Although I'll say this one is more yin-yang, whereas Inland Empire is more parallel.
And it also has parallels to Lost Highway, which is why it's often called his LA trilogy or Hollywood trilogy. I mean, I think it's more of his LA trilogy, because I guess two are kind of in the Hollywood Hills, and then Inland Empire obviously references Hollywood and the Inland Empire itself. So I some things characters having different associations, and there's a specific cut in the middle of this movie where characters kind of change personas, and you're like, oh, was that a dream? That is kind of Lost Highway was kind of like that as well. So if you watch them all in congruency, you can kind of see these ideas that he's playing with.
Yes.
With dreams inside of dreams, and then you can try to guess okay, is this the reality? And then this part of the movie was the dream, or maybe it's all just kind of mixed together, and it's all a dream. but there are like the Russian doll thing. Like there are dreams within dreams.
Yes.
That's what we're not doubting. We know there are dreams within dreams. We just don't know whether there's any reality in this movie, which I think where it definitely changes from, say, Twin Peaks.
For sure.
Which had dreams, but had a very distinct reality.
Yes.
But would occasionally like blur that line.
Yeah, intentionally. Because there's kind of this chasm, this in-between space that Lynch allows to exist between reality and dream, right? His specialty is in the in-between, right? And you do have some Twin Peaks in this, right? I'm just pointing out, like, you have the red curtains again. You have the short man that is kind of the mob boss, right? Who makes all the decisions in the background regarding the director Adam's choices. But David kind of takes the idea of LA being the land of dreams literally and puts real dreams into this, right? It's kind of hilarious. And the idea that he makes a love story in the city of dreams, that's his real quote. It's not just Ben's version of Lynch. By the way, that's a real Lynch. But it's not just Ben's version of Lynch's quote. This idea that we are in a movie that is dream-like. It is not a dream, nor is it not dream-like, right? It's in this in-between space. And I think there are a few moments in this film where we are shown that neither reality that we are presented with, and I believe there are two realities we are presented with in this film, are real. That my interpretation of it is not that the second half of the film is the reality and the first half was a dream, or vice versa. My interpretation is we're not meant to know which one's a dream and which one's not. There seem to be dreaming and I'm referring to when the blue box is open. That's really the crux of this film, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's
a distinct point where the film switches. Just like it happens much later in the movie than Lost Highway, but it's kind of similar to Lost Highway in that there's a distinct moment you're like, okay, I know things have switched.
Yes.
And you're right, it is a MacGuffin. You don't know what's in the black box or the blue box.
Mm-hmm. And I would say
unless it's literally supposed to be a different reality.
That's what I thought too. And we can get into that. I think it's easier to split up the movie into those two realities and what happens in each and compare them rather than doing a linear timeline.
Oh, I completely agree.
So you have these two stories. In the first story, before the blue box is open, you have this Naomi Watts character, Betty, who is an aspiring, naive actress who's going to L.A., living with her aunt to become, the next big movie star and great actress, right? She wants both. And then you also have not Camila. What's her other alter ego?
Diane. Who adopts the name Rita.
Yes, because she has amnesia. And it's shown at the beginning.
It's like Memento. It's like this movie I watched called Memento.
Oh yeah, which we've reviewed. Check out.
Which also came out in 2001.
Yep, that's actually really
big year for amnesia.
Yeah. Well, after the end of 2001, you would want to forget that year.
True.
Yes, but anyway, I'm just saying. So yeah, then you have those characters and they interact. There's a love story between them even, but then also they are kind of unraveling this mystery of who Diane is and kind of her past, and this idea that Naomi Watts' character Betty is trying to be in this movie, and she ends up becoming the lead actress for this movie. Well, later on she does, and the director of this movie's name is Adam, and his life is falling apart. The mob is after him. They're kind of they're forcing him to choose a certain actress to be his lead. So there's a lot of complicated storylines going on.
This is the one.
Yes, exactly. And it's confused. It's kind of confusing. The first half of the film, you're introduced to like 3 or 4 different plot lines that aren't connected at all, and you don't really know how they connect until kind of the middle of the film, when they connect. And you see Betty auditioning for Adam's movie, and then you know that Betty's roommates with Diane, and Diane's starting to remember. Maybe her name, is
or Rita. She thinks her name's Rita, but
yeah, she thinks her name's Diane maybe, and
Diane Selwyn, and they're going to the apartment to try to figure out if that's who she is, and there's all this kind of that sort of side going on.
But then they find the dead woman there,
yeah,
at the apartment.
Oh, and there's also this hitman who is looking for Diane. We don't really know why, but there's this hilarious scene where he is like he shoots someone and then he accidentally shoots a second lady next door, and he keeps covering it up by shooting more people.
Yep. And she's like, something bit me really bad. And he like shoots her.
And it's all of this like off kilter Lynch stuff where he's like, he makes really funny scripts because the characters do and say things that you're like, it's just off and it's weird.
That scene felt Tarantino-like to me.
I know. I was
Did you
just
think
about
that?
to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the most Tarantino I've ever seen Lynch.
Yeah, I was because it's funny, violent, and kind of like realistic.
Yeah, and it's also that the fact that it's set in L.A. I think gives it a very Pulp Fiction like vibe, at least at that point, because that actor and even Justin Theroux is like people you would believe could be in a Tarantino movie. Now, do I think Lynch was really that inspired by Tarantino? No, but I mean he could have been inspired by the movement that Tarantino was kind of at the forefront of, which is the like sort of slick noir. I don't know if you call it noir, but like crime movies that he made that were influenced by like 70s crime movies.
Yes.
So in all of that, sure,
was
he was.
Pulp Fiction 1990?
1994.
Okay, I was way off.
Yeah.
I'm wondering. So then, okay, we'll just cut to the chase. After the blue box is open, both the main two women characters disappear, and then Naomi Watts' character now wakes up as a different character named Diane, right? No. Yes. Named Diane. And she...
Yeah, so now she's Diane.
Yes, and she is...
And Camilla is now who Diane was.
Yes.
And Camilla had been in the original one as a different actress who was the one.
Correct. And she seemed to be... that they were like ex-lovers or something like that. And then eventually Diane, Naomi Watts' version of Diane in the second reality, in the second half of the movie, puts out a hit on Camilla because she is with Adam, the director, and has the main role that she is jealous of. And that seems to be the gist of the second half of it. Would you add anything to that?
Yeah. That's pretty much it. I wouldn't really add anything to that. Yeah, I mean the lover, so in the first dream, Diane and Betty become lovers seemingly by they sort of like accidentally or like fall into it. I don't know how to describe it. It's very dreamlike.
Yes.
And then in the second half, they're like, it's much more of a like, we are not in love, but we still have some sort of a thing going on, some sort of a relationship going on, but we also don't like Camilla, or I can't get the names get confusing.
It's
Diane is very jealous of
Which
Camilla.
Diane? The new Diane.
The new Diane, who used to be Betty.
Okay.
Is very jealous of Camilla because Camilla is sleeping with the director Adam, or has a relationship. I mean, a very public relationship. Actually, it's not even sleeping. So presumably, her relationship with Diane was always kind of secretive, and this is now the open. So she's like also rubbing it in her face, and she's going to events that Camilla's at, but she's not. She doesn't share in the spotlight. She gets like small roles. So she's sort of getting like the crumbs while Camilla basks in the spotlight, and she is very resentful of it. And her dream has become a nightmare where it's like, this is, Hollywood where dreams come to die or dreams turn into nightmares.
That's
so
a good way to put it.
In a lot of ways, it's interesting that a lot of people write about this movie after they watch it and they're like, this is really confusing, but the themes are like super obvious.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
Lynch is pretty blunt about the fact that he doesn't like Hollywood. He doesn't like producers, or he's very skeptical of them. Yes. I don't know if this is like supposed to be out to get anyone, but it's just like
that's not Lynch's vibe. He doesn't get out for that.
It's an observational piece on like, okay, I've worked with the movie industry now. I've worked with multiple different people. And, I feel like an alien compared to these people. I'm like an artist. I do things like this certain way. I have a very clear vision. But these people are like, this is their career. They do, like, they work. They're concerned about money. They're concerned about narratives. They're concerned about sex. They're concerned about power. These are not things that David Lynch, at least by any stretch that we can tell, was that concerned by.
He's a themes guy.
He wasn't like, I need to, own the most, produce the most, become this like mogul person with my work. I need to, do this or that. And I'm sure he's just worked with many different movie producers, and the people that are attracted to the position of being a movie producer tends to, they hold a lot of power.
But we would also interview you on the Movie Vault, so don't be offended.
Yeah. So don't be offended. We're not talking about you specifically, you ex-movie producer out there. And I think he has hit something with the fact that actresses come to Hollywood like Betty, just wide-eyed, naive, like, I'm going to be a star. Mm-hmm. They don't go into it being like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be a star, even if that means I'm going to sleep with a producer. It's sort of, they sort of end up getting pulled down that road by a person who's aware that this is what young actresses go through, who would be a lot of times the producer. And as we've mentioned before, the Harvey Weinstein stuff had not come out at this point, but presumably it was rumored in Hollywood, or like, there was, even if it's not Harvey Weinstein, there was, I'm sure, been producers who had been known to do stuff like this before. And I think in old Hollywood, it was more of an open secret. Like there was specific, actresses who went through abuse, but it was just seen as like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like, this is just the way it is type of thing. Yeah. Back then. And old Hollywood is a huge influence on Lynch's work, and 1950s movies are huge, and
Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah. All the stuff on this era. And even the way that this movie is acted. I was listening to a podcast. It was Wisecrack, Show Me the Meaning, which
they're pretty good.
They're pretty good. I was getting a little annoyed by the podcast. I don't mean to like, they don't really exist anymore. So I guess I can but sometimes it felt like I was like, okay, now I'm just listening to philosophical word vomit. And this feels like very anti-Lynch. Like we're really like intellectualizing Lynch's work here when we should
that's not Lynch.
But I get it, and I appreciate. But the one thing that they commented on that made a lot of sense to me was like 50s movies tend to be very like, the acting is very like big and showy, and it's like it's not going for realism. It's going for, this is a movie. Yeah. I think of Marlon Brando in On the Waterfront or something like that. These are people who are like very clearly going for a specific tone. And it wasn't necessarily this like thing that we have now where it's like all good acting has to be like realism or like, it's like, it's okay to know that this is like a caricature of a person and that I'm watching a movie.
That doesn't mean it's bad acting.
But it doesn't mean it's bad acting. It's just a different style of acting.
Which is why it was annoying when people wrote that there was bad acting in this. Naomi Watts kills it, especially in that scene where she has to act in front of the executives. What I mean?
My goodness, it's
and
a great
she's
scene.
acting like, and you can tell like she's acting as an actress that is pretty good but not the best, which is really hard to do, right? And I think it just reminds me. I know this is stupid to bring up, but it reminds me of Wanda Maximoff having to act kind of in like WandaVision and some of the.
No, you're right.
Like she's kind of acting as an actress. There's like a double layer to it. And I remember Elizabeth Olsen just killing it in that. And then this reminded me a lot of that, like acting as an actress.
It's really hard because of how many layers there are and how obvious it is to the audience that that's what you're trying to do, right? It's not like a hidden thing. It's
of course this was her breakout role.
And that's what makes it interesting too, because Watts had been trying to make it in the industry, and then this movie about an actress who had all these dreams and stuff, and where she is like the very visible star, like ends up being the movie that does push her into the limelight and make her successful. Yeah, which again goes into Lynch's like meta commentary things, where it's like, I don't know whether he knows this, like I don't know whether he was looking for that.
He had to, or just kind of had to cross his mind. He's not stupid.
No, I know he's not stupid. Like he was probably looking, and then Laura Harring also. I believe she was more in the like beauty pageant scene before she went into this. So Lynch is he's not looking for actors and actresses the same way that these producers he's portraying. No. He doesn't. Maybe he does have a narrative that he's going for, but it's not the same types of narratives that.
One of the only comments he had on this film was post Cannes Film Festival, which this won him Best Director for Cannes, by the way, which is crazy.
And a best, not that this matters that much, but Best Director nom for the Oscars, which he was never going to win.
Which is
somebody
awesome,
stupid
though. Probably
won.
Anyway, he wins it, and one of the only things he says about this film in his whole career is that there is an actual linear progression storyline to take away from this film. And I was like, how? Really? And I have to think of this, right? So this gets to the crux of the film, Ben. A key part of the film for me is when Naomi Watts' character Diane wakes up from the bed where that woman was lying dead, the previous Diane, and in the same position. Obviously, she is the same woman. So if you are to interpret the film as the first part is a dream, the second part is not, then then the first half of the film is the dream, and Diane is dreaming it, and Diane is dreaming about this alternate world where she is, an aspiring actress. Like, she's going to make it big. She lands the big role, right? And her friend, which is Diane, Camila, in the real world apparently, is not in the lead role. She's just kind of there to be a supportive friend, and she has amnesia. She doesn't know who she is, and there's like this dependency because there's also ex-lovers in the supposed real world in this theory. So there's some psychology going on in there if this theory is correct. Then you have theory B, where the first half is the real half, the second half is a dream, where Diane, the dead woman, is dreaming about the second half of the film. And now it's like, oh, her friend who has amnesia is actually really a star, and she remembers who she is kind of more confident in herself than Naomi Watts' Diane in the second half of the movie is. And whether you believe theory A or theory B, it's a very different film.
That's so true.
Theory A is more about the psychology. Theory B is kind of more like a happy ending.
Yeah, it's more of a theory B doesn't. It's interesting to think about because it's more of like I'm living the dream and I'm dreaming the nightmare. Whereas theory A is I'm living the nightmare but I'm dreaming the dream.
Wow, that was very profound, Ben. That was great.
So, I guess you have to decide what Lynch, maybe the clear narrative is that there's two clear narratives. So that you can see both sides of the coin.
But I will say,
that's a very centrist view of this.
You're saying from Naomi Watts' character, both of her characters' perspective, either the dream and the nightmare and the dream, it would be vice versa for Camila's character.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like one reality she's doing well and Naomi Watts isn't, and the other one it's the opposite.
Yeah, but then there's like twists in the fact that it's not only good things happen in the first half of the movie.
Sure.
And mostly bad things happen in the last 30 minutes or whatever.
Well, it seems like the whole movie is kind of bad things happening, to be honest.
So maybe it's not really fair to portray the first half as like a dream, like it's like, oh, everything's great, because everything's not exactly great.
But ignorance is bliss almost in that way.
It's more of an ignorant, naive view of life versus the second half, which is like, everything is crumbled and, they're both going to end up dead.
I think theory A is more likely to be correct, and I'm going to present a theory C and maybe even D later on, but I think theory A is more likely because it seems that the first half of the film is almost less believable than the second half of the film. It seems like when she wakes up on her couch in that apartment with all those boxes around and Diane's just looking around and gets in a fight with Camila, it seems like that's more realistic than this fake amnesia thing, and like, you know what I mean?
And even the characters, the big, like the guy in the room.
Yes.
The cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
These characters who are representative of like fate and power and just things that are out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they explain things for her. They're like, oh, I can't get this part because there's this guy in this room who's determining, and he talks to this guy who, by the way, Angelo Badalamenti played one of the, what do they call them? The brothers. I don't want to say their name wrong. But it was hilarious to me when I realized it was Angelo Badalamenti who plays one of the characters.
No way.
Because they're so it's such a funny, like when he spits out the espresso. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Luigi Castigliani.
The Castigliani. It's the Castigliani brothers.
Yeah.
It's also just like okay, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here.
Okay.
My takeaway from this movie was Justin Theroux's performance as Adam Kesher was phenomenal.
Oh, it was very good.
It was so funny. I don't think I realized in the first part of the film, this is the only guy who realizes that what's going on in this world is nuts.
Yes.
And it's so funny to watch him just like try to navigate through. He's like, this doesn't, like, none of this makes sense. And as the viewer, you're going, yes, it doesn't really make sense. Like, and this guy, yeah. But everything that happens to him is like, and people just treat him like, you're like, almost like, how is this guy a big name director?
Mm-hmm.
his wife is cheating on him with Billy Ray Cyrus.
Which is amazing.
And that's no way to treat your wife, no matter what she's done. Throws him out of his own house. He has no power there. It's a caricature, I guess, of like. It's funny that Lynch like portrays the director this way, because you think of the director being the one who's in control of the movie, right? This guy has no control. He doesn't have control over his own life, his home life. He doesn't have control over his money. He doesn't have control over and he has to go meet this guy named the Cowboy. He's like, should I get my 10-gallon hat and my 6 shooters? Oh my goodness. And then the Cowboy in and of itself is funny, because the Cowboy is played by an actual film producer, Monty Montgomery, who worked with David Lynch on Wild at Heart.
Really?
And also co-directed this movie called The Loveless that I watched recently, and I didn't realize, like, it's weird how all these connections come together. Like, he co-directed it with Catherine Bigelow. I guess they went to film school together or something.
At AFI?
No, not at AFI. They would have come up later, like in the early 80s.
Interesting.
But
the cowboy scene was awesome.
Yeah. Apparently he was so bad at acting, he had to read the lines off Justin Theroux's head. But it works. Like, that's the thing. Even he might like legit be a bad actor, because he's not an actor. That's the thing.
But in David Lynch,
Angela Badalamenti is not. But if you're a good director, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can make this person into exactly who you wanted them to be. There's a reason why he picked this person out.
Yes. 100%. I agree with you.
Okay. I have a question about the Cowboy.
What?
He says, if you see me one more time, it's good. If you see me 2 more times, you did not do good. Or
I think it's something that was supposed to be in the TV show.
We see him one more time.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, it's not, he doesn't show up to Adam, but he still shows up one more time in the movie.
So is he talking to us?
Curious
or to
if
Justin
that had
Theroux's
any
character?
significance to the movie. But I mean, we know Adam Kesher. He made the right decision in the Cowboy's eyes, because he said this is the one. He said it kind of like, this is the one. Like, he was really annoyed he had to say it, and then Angela Badalamenti's over there like, good job. There's so many cartoon that I don't know how people don't love this movie. If you like watch the scenes and see it's so like.
Do you know what
endearing.
Is my favorite David Lynch? You know, he has these creepy faced old men characters.
Yeah, he's so good.
My favorite one is the one from, I believe it's Wild at Heart.
Oh
no, Lost Highway. It's the one with the white face.
Yeah,
the one who actually killed his wife in real life.
Yeah, that guy. He's like the absolute
he's
most
the best.
Wild looking of any of them.
But a close second in David Lynch lore is the one that's also from Twin Peaks, the shorter man who is kind of the mob boss in this film. I can't remember
that guy.
his name.
I forgot what his name is.
But he is very good in all that he does, because he brings like this kind of crazy, weird, but also calm energy to the film. And I hate using the word energy like I'm some mystical guy, but he brings an element of weird to the film.
This is the first time, I think somebody pointed this out in something I listened to, that like he was in Twin Peaks, but this is the first time he ever said anything forwards, like as a straight
instead of backwards. Yeah, that's a good point.
And yeah, you're right. He is so good at that. And I was thinking about the casting scene too. So with which I think is one of the best scenes in the movie, where Betty's like trying to have her big shot, and there's 2. I'm not gonna be able to figure out which guys these were, because there was like Wally and like all these guys, and they all like kind of look the same, but they all have very distinct like faces where you're like, that guy looks like so familiar. And then they fit the parts so well, because that scene was also so off-putting, because it's like kind of like a casting couch, like little bit of rapey, like you feel like something's gonna happen, because he's like, now let's get real close this time. Let's get real close, you know. And he's got these crazy eyes, and you're like, well, this guy cannot have any good. And then she somehow turns it into like that energy. I'm using the word energy now.
How else can you say
it fits with the script that she's saying, because the scene is like she's with this guy who's like her husband's or her father's best friend type of thing, and you're like, why are, like,
I missed that. Weird.
I know, that's the script. That's what the script is about. So the energy of the actual room kind of fits with the script, but she's still
How
kind
many
of
times are you going to use the word energy? That's
now you
like
got it in my head. And she kind of flips it, which again I have to shout out Wisecrack for pointing that out.
They're still on YouTube. Why? By the way, Wisecrack.
No, they shut down
Completely.
Wisecrack shut down. Yeah.
Am I thinking of something else?
No, they were big on YouTube.
Even recently.
Even recently.
When did they shut down?
I saw a video like within the last couple of months that said this is the last Wisecrack video.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I think I don't know. I was reading the comments. I didn't go too in depth, but I think they might have like expanded too much, and then and maybe some.
Are we doing that?
Yeah, we're in danger of that.
It's just us, Ben.
Yeah. And maybe some key pieces left or something like that, and they had to like kind of blow the whole thing up, which is a little bit, and the end video was kind of sad because they had multiple people like come in and they're like, I'm this guy, I don't have a job anymore, and then they were like kind of like, everyone's looking for a job, so if you, I'm like, oh my god, this makes me kind of sad, like
that's kind of awkward. Dan.
Yeah, it is. It was like not. It didn't feel like the worst ending, but it also felt like something was off. So I don't know, not to get in the weeds about Wisecrack, but I guess that shows you that YouTube can also be a land of dreams and successes and failures. Because it's not like they weren't successful, but
yeah, I found a cool quote. It talks about how there's this theory that David Lynch, one of the tropes that he has is detectives, right?
Right.
And it's this idea, David Roach says it, he's a film theorist. He says that Lynch films do not simply tell detective stories, but rather force the audience into the role of becoming detectives themselves to make sense of the narratives. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's completely fair. And a lot of times he casts characters who are like not good detectives, and they're like naive detectives, so they're like kind of the same as the audience.
Sure, like Naomi Watts, like, oh, it's a key.
Or like Kyle MacLachlan, or, you know. These, I mean, the only, I guess, exception to that is
Dale
well, no,
Cooper.
that's not even true. Is he even a good detective?
Dale Cooper?
Yeah,
he's a great detective. Are you kidding me? He's the only one that leaves the possibility open for the supernatural.
You're right. But that's the only reason he's a good detective.
No,
because
he's good.
Like, I had a dream. We're gonna go here, Harry.
No, he's a great detective.
Okay, you're right. He's good.
Nobody else would be able to do that.
I know you're right.
They thought he was crazy, Ben.
You're right.
I can't believe you're doubting Dale Cooper.
I'm not doubting Dale Cooper. I'm just saying he's like. Okay, maybe he is a great detective, but he appears to be a crazy detective. If you outside of the context of the show, if Dale Cooper showed up to a crime scene,
that's what Harry used to think right away. But guess what? Harry warmed up to him by episode 3, didn't he?
After he drank enough cups of coffee and ate enough donuts.
I'm just saying Harry literally deferred all authority.
Andy is a terrible detective. We can agree on that.
Listen, Andy's very sweet.
I know he's sweet. He's a good morality boost to the department.
It was kind of weird when there was like a whole episode about where the side story was whether or not he can create sperm.
Yeah, I forgot about that. There were so many. The writer's room had to be insane for that.
Oh, they must have been on coffee and cigarettes all night.
Yeah. So I think that's fair. And also I pointed out this insert to you at this before we started recording, but he had like 10 clues. So he plays into it too. He like wants you to be like thinking about it like it's a mystery, but I think it's frustrating for people because it's hard. These are hard mysteries to solve. You know,
Scooby-Doo can't do it.
Exactly, and there's no. Well, he says there's a sure way, there's a sure narrative, but he never he doesn't give you enough information to know that you for sure know the exact narrative.
I have a good short quote to address this. Roach, the guy who I just talked about, concludes that Mulholland Drive is a mystery film, not because it allows the audience to view the solution to a question, but the film itself is a mystery that is held together by the spectator detective's desire to make sense of it.
Yeah, which I think really, really frustrates a lot of people.
Well, that's the thing, Ben. I think that's the exact concept I addressed at the beginning of this episode, which is Lynch is kind of putting his foot in the door to create more space for this in-between dream and reality state. And I think the more that he allows us to have almost like on a rock climbing wall areas to grab onto and hold for our dear life to make sense of this film, he's not giving us a platform to stand on. He's going to make us hang there forever. And that tension is the beauty of this film, you know? And there is this search and there is this desire to interpret, and Lynch actually, like, he doesn't give us answers to it, but he doesn't discourage us from finding it, even though there aren't answers, right?
Yeah,
because
true.
he's kind of we would express that there is truth in the world, but David Lynch is expressing that the search is kind of what matters, right? The transcendental meditation.
Well, there's love in the world.
Yeah,
there is love in the world. I don't know why. David, thanks for coming back again, buddy. I don't know what I'm being a little bit hyperbolic when I use the fact, like, he might not center on love, but it's more like feelings.
Sure. Or he'll fixate on something at least.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna do one more quote. I found this one very good. It kind of has to do with the nature of this film in general, so it's a little bit of a shift. The New York Times writer Stephen Holden, I've never read anything from him, says Mulholland Drive has little to do with any single character's love life or professional ambition. Duh. The movie is an ever-deepening reflection of the allure of Hollywood and on that multiple role-playing and self-invention that the movie-going experience promises. What greater power is there than the power to enter and to program the dream life of the culture, right? And then he calls it a poisonous Valentine to Hollywood. It's this idea that in Hollywood, the nature of it is for roles to change, for you to kind of create personas and dream and almost like blur the lines between who you are really and who you are portraying yourself to be. So he's kind of expressing, maybe even in his Hollywood LA trilogy, these concepts or archetypes that Hollywood is a great place for this in-between dream and reality state to exist. What do you think of that?
Actually, that clicks with me.
Okay.
A lot.
I'm glad, because I just thought of that on the spot.
I'm thinking about like someone like Brad Pitt. Okay, you just watch Fight Club. Think about his.
Gosh, Tyler Durden, such a great character.
Think about his actual life. Like I'm talking about Brad Pitt, not Tyler Durden.
Okay.
Like, okay, you go into Hollywood, you become this big star. Like fame to that extent, like is promised. Like and people consider him a good actor. Okay,
he is.
I mean, maybe he hasn't always played in the best part. Like, you know how Betty says, well, stars aren't always great actors, or great actors aren't always stars, but sometimes they are. Yeah. And there's a few actors and actresses who you would be like, they are both an excellent celebrity and an excellent star.
Who would that be?
So I was using Brad Pitt as an example. Okay. He has legitimately great performances, like artistic performances.
Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yes, but he's maybe a little bit less
of a star.
Of a star. Not that he's not a star, but I mean...
Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect example.
Okay.
But then their life becomes like a caricature of their own life. Like, and sometimes you wonder, like, do they even know how to live anymore? Like...
Nicolas Cage?
Not that... It's not an enviable position, but then everyone sort of has this idea that they would like it if they got to do it, right? Like, so many times you hear people say, "Oh, you wouldn't like fame. Oh, you wouldn't want to deal with the stuff that I have to deal." But then again, everyone has this. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of people have this sort of innate, like, man, if I knew everyone loved me and thought I was a great actor, that would be, and I had a lot of money.
If only I
but
could be
it's
discovered.
Not just the money, because there's a lot more people who have a lot of money than are famous, and there's a lot of people who have more money than these people. Like producers, most of them have more money than
or Elon Musk.
Maybe not Leonardo DiCaprio, but
if I say the word Elon Musk, do we get flagged?
We might.
I have a question. This is a thought I literally just had. Imagine a drama comes out. Jack Black is the star. It's a drama. He wins an Oscar for Best Actor. How does that change Hollywood? Because, by the way, that would be the biggest thing ever. Because Jack Black is like the least good actor that I can think of that is a star.
Yeah,
he is a star.
He feels like a more authentic person, though.
He seems more authentic because he's not afraid to not be a great actor.
Yeah,
he's not afraid to be goofy.
And he hasn't like made his. The other thing that you have to do when you're these big actors is you have to start like really thinking about how you publicize your social life. Your every aspect is like planned. They do these. I've heard people talk about these like interviews they do with George Clooney and Brad Pitt, and like they're in the south of France, and it's like even that decision, I would be like, oh, it's cool to go to the south of France. Like maybe I'll go sometime. I probably won't, but maybe I will. And I would enjoy like just, spending time there. But that is a move that they're doing. Like in some ways they're like being directed.
Yeah.
So like, did they ever really stop being an actor? I think that's kind of what Mulholland Drive, you start making decisions that are like, because there's a whole performance being played by your very existence.
Exactly.
That people are following.
So like, where is your true self? Do you lose touch with it?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Do you become what you are acting
Another example of that is Tom Cruise. A different direction that you can go with that. He was very polished in the limelight, and then he became a Scientologist.
Yeah.
So you could go that direction. You don't have to follow the, but
Kanye West, he's the biggest example, right? Crazy right now, but
Kanye West shows that like being famous can cause you to have a mental breakdown, but it's not the only. Being famous didn't help with I'm sure there was other stuff involved with him having multiple mental breakdowns at this point. And like maybe he has had mental breakdowns within mental breakdowns.
What about Ellen beating the interns with pots and pans?
Well, that's just she was a mean person.
Okay.
So
I just made that up, but
she
you never know.
Drive at all costs tends to be rewarded too in Hollywood sometimes.
Ryan Gosling, speaking of Drive. Is he one of those?
Yeah.
Because of Barbie, did he shoot to that star level?
I think so. He's definitely up there. He's a very popular guy. I can't say like, I don't follow tabloids, but there's certain people you can't deny the fact that that they're like in every tabloid. And he's not really commenting on tabloids specifically, but that's kind of with celebrity news and gossip and the whole, like now it's become so fragmented now. It was in the 50s, it was probably all just like celebrity gossip. Now there's people who it's literally, they are famous because of gossip. They're not famous because, like, speaking of Kanye, the Kardashians, they're not famous because they were actors or anything. They're famous because they are great tabloid bait.
Yes.
And that's it. So we got rid of the fact that people have to even be actors before they get to have tabloids made about them.
Now we're putting like musicians in movies. Ariana Grande stars in The Wicked.
Yeah, well, and again, I said a great director can use anyone. So now it's like, do you even have to be a good actor to be in anything?
Just get someone famous. Put Billy Ray Cyrus in as the cheater in the movie.
It used to be like cool. Like Jim Jarmusch would put the lead singer of The Clash in a movie, and that was cool.
That is cool.
I know, but people don't do things because they're cool anymore.
Yeah.
They do it because it's trendy, or they do it because this person's marketable. I know. Like, it frustrates me.
Yeah. That
movies aren't cool anymore.
Yeah. Now we have like Jack Black coming through a portal in an indie film, and people are clapping. You know what I mean? Like A24 now has like Ryan Gosling like coming in as Spider-Man, and like, you know what I mean? It's just like we're just IPing, throwing messes at the wall. These aren't real things that happen, obviously, but it
wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, we just literally the only move was to get people to say I understand that and clap at it.
So you see how Lynch can just like cause your brain to go in all these different directions.
But it's relaxing.
I know.
It's kind of like a sauna.
And it's also very, very interesting because all of this happens in an industry that's very luxurious to have. The fact that the U.S. cares so much about Hollywood shows the fact that we have a lot of excess and not to be this person who because I don't like the triangle of sadness. But other countries look to the U.S. because and maybe even, poke fun at the U.S. because of our obsession with celebrity and Hollywood. But it's always, since the dawn of film, this has sort of been the direction that it's headed in.
We should keep note of this when we go into Bollywood films one day and just kind of see if that's similar.
Yeah.
I know Bollywood. I know fame in Bollywood is more concentrated in fewer people, where like you have one actor that kind of is in like all the different films for the year, and that actor changes from different person from years to year. As the years go by.
It's more of it's centralized. Like maybe the "this is the one" mentality is even stronger in some ways.
This is how I think of it. Bollywood's more like an oligarchy of actors, whereas in America it's like really a capitalist amount of actors. But then you have like the people who rise above capitalism. You have your Amazon CEOs, Jeff Bezos, which would be your Leonardo DiCaprio's.
Yeah, that's true.
Not to relate economics to the film industry.
No, but it is economics.
Yeah.
As much as David Lynch, and Lynch is really interesting because he's a household name. Doesn't mean that even most people have watched his movies, but the fact that his vision is so strong that he can't be denied.
It must be so hard to be him.
And and it doesn't even seem like he's that frustrated by it though.
Exactly.
If you see him, he was able to make 10 movies, correct, and a TV show that had a very, very lengthy final season.
Yeah.
That is like probably was his. I mean, it was his final chance to do something artistic in the medium, but also was like he had the most range and creative ability of anything he did in his career when he did The Return, which I don't think I've thought about. Like,
that's a good
thought about the fact
point.
that's the case. So Lynch's career really did. I mean, Midnight success, Elephant Man, instant success. Slight downturn with Dune, but he still got to make a movie about a very successful.
Put his name out there.
Yeah, put his name out there. People knew about it,
and he gained his actor.
And then cult film success, wins Palme d'Or, successful TV
Wild
show,
at Heart.
Wild at Heart.
Yeah.
So I'm saying like that wasn't necessarily a successful film commercially, but it still was successful.
Critically, that's what you want.
Yeah, and then super insanely successful TV show, sort of another downturn. Right, with Lost Highway and the end of Fire Walk with Me, but he was still doing stuff that he wanted.
By the way, now a cult classic.
Yeah, also both cult classics, both highly regarded.
Yeah.
And also I don't know. Like I was joking in my Lynch impression earlier. Like I don't know that he really cared that people didn't like Lost Highway or didn't understand. I'm sure that didn't really bother him.
He just told us at the beginning of the episode that he doesn't read critiques.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you think it would be hard to be him? I'm only asking that because I'm guessing most people don't try to utilize the framework that he puts forth to understand his films. Because you're right, like we could get into wisecrack critical philosophy and interpret this film in many different forms. That would work. We could easily apply philosophy to this film and try, beyond what we've already tried.
Yeah, you could basically just like go through different philosophical frameworks.
But we refrain. You and I refrain because we know that's not what David wants. We've seen enough interviews with him. We've seen all of his films. We know that's not what he wants. We've seen his rabbits. We've seen his pilots. We've seen his paintings. We've seen his documentary. We've seen enough of him to know that like we must not go far down into the intellectual role.
Well, but he doesn't want that. But I think the reason is he wants it to be an individual experience.
Yes.
So he wants you to do the thinking and he wants you to be the detective, but I don't think he envisioned, two guys on a podcast telling everyone that this is what they should think.
But it's themes. It's not logic.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. So like you could definitely analyze the themes with lots of words and use many paragraphs, right? But the logic is where we go wrong and we try to say this is Nietzschean, this is, anti-capital. I don't think David Lynch cared.
David Lynch, maybe this is why I love him so much.
Yeah.
I don't think he cared about capitalism versus socialism at all.
As long as he could spend a nickel on a cigarette, that's all he cared. Truly.
Yeah. He viewed life in such a feeling way that he didn't, and you could say, yeah, sure, the cynic would say, well, he was given a lot, like he had a lot of opportunities and, but he didn't come from.
Well, he recognized that.
Yeah. Yeah,
he says it's all about, for him, he's like, it just all kind of happened. Like it kind of fell like a silver platter to him. That's what he said.
The cowboy was in his favor.
Yeah, that's funny.
He had a good attitude about things that the cowboy liked.
Yeah, you must not care about your life.
But yeah, it's not, I mean, this is not a guy who you could say was born of nepotism. His family did not have much.
No.
He wasn't raised in a bad home and they weren't,
he wasn't
starving.
Raised in Philadelphia.
He would say
hated that.
He would say that he appreciated his upbringing and it was idyllic. Mm-hmm. So he recognizes all that stuff, but he doesn't feel any like remorse or guilt for having. That's the thing I think people miss. Like, yeah, like you could be jealous. You could put yourself in Betty's shoes about David Lynch and be like, well, I want to be David Lynch. Like, why couldn't I be the one who had this strong vision? And, instead I'm just this person who's talking about David Lynch movies.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, life is not like, it's not like that. Some people will have the opportunities.
Yeah.
And different people have theories about why that's the case.
Sure.
But
yeah.
But
that's when you get into Marxism. I think like the interesting thing is like for me.
But should everyone have the opportunity?
Well,
just because you kind of want it doesn't mean that you would have been better. Like that you should have gotten the opportunities that Lynch got, or you would have done anything with the opportunities that Lynch got.
I think it's more like I'm probably having more fun enjoying his art than if I had made it.
Yeah, because there were some painstaking parts of like we gloss over it kind of, but he was torn up about Dune.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a very
and his big the crux of that for him. I used the word crux 3 times in this episode is that he didn't have final cut because he had made 6 hours of it and he wanted final cut. He says he never took a film after that without final cut.
Yeah, and they had to film out in the desert. They had there's all kinds of stuff that was like they were in these dilapidated Mexican.
I would love to have a Lynch cut of Dune.
Yeah,
like a Lynch director's cut.
Oh man,
that would be awesome.
Call the whatever foundation.
After the third Dune trilogy, after the third Dune comes out and the trilogy's over, they should get all that footage and put it together.
Yeah,
posthumously.
You're right, and I'm sorry if you like came into this episode and were like, I want you to tell me the meaning. Like I just watched this and it makes no sense, but I think that's kind of what you have to learn. Like Roger Ebert says it in his review of the movie. If you like logic, watch another movie. Go watch Memento. Actually, that's a great movie that employs logic really well.
The antithesis of David Lynch is
they're both about amnesia. They both have amnesia, but they're very, very different. And they're Nolan is pretty much the complete opposite of Lynch. If I were to put directors on the political spectrum, like if I was gonna make like a political spectrum out of filmmaking, so the left. Oh, now I gotta remember what the left axis that's below the. I can't even describe a graph.
I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
So there's the political compass is like top right is like conservative authoritarian.
Okay.
And then you have libertarian or conservative libertarian.
Okay.
And then you have socialist conservative on the bottom left.
Okay.
And then top left is authoritarian or not. What did I say? Socialist.
Libertarian?
Yeah, socialist libertarian. Bottom left. Top left authoritarian. Socialist.
Okay.
So I don't know why this took me so long to describe that. I guess it's been a while since I've interacted with the political compass. Okay. Some people hate the political compass. They don't think it accurately describes things. I don't care. I'm using it as an example for this. So on the authoritarian right, I would put Christopher Nolan. Okay. I was going to put him on the libertarian right, but then I'm like, no, he like wants a lot of control.
Yeah, well, he likes logic and authority.
Yeah, logic and authority. So he's going to go there, and I'll refrain from describing where certain political figures would be on this because it gets confusing and it's probably.
We just got flagged again.
I know.
Well, they probably had the same flag for Musk and Hitler.
That's who I was going to avoid naming, but I guess we already named him. So he would actually not be in the far right corner. But you'd have to watch videos explaining. We have
name dropped Hitler, Kanye, and Elon Musk in this episode.
But he would be somewhere in the right. I mean, he would be in the authoritarian right, and he would be very high up.
Yeah.
Because of the authoritarian thing.
Yeah.
But I think it gets more religious as you go this way, or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think socially libertarian, we would put David Lynch because it's very free flowing. A lot of the ideas from a political perspective down there are basically like things are just going to flow and we don't have to be so restrictive about them. And we're also not saying that like the free market's going to correct everything. Like on the other side of the libertarian coin where they're just like the free market's like God, basically, it's just everything's perfect when the free market is not limited.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was a really, sorry.
I would love you to
that was a really long
chart
way
that out.
to try to explain how opposite Nolan and it would be fun to put different directors.
Maybe that can go on your list, but you need to pick one thing to work on, not many things.
You're right.
Yeah,
we're picking one thing first, but that's a good idea. We came up with it.
I think it is cool because you do have these opposite ends of the spectrum directors coming out with an Amnesia movie in the same year. I mean, that's like, there is really something ironic about that. I will say, we did, like you said, maybe someone listening to this episode would be disappointed that we didn't go through the theories. I don't think there is much to go beyond. I really don't. I think we
got to experience the movie.
You have theory A, you have theory B, and I think theory C is the one I tend to believe, and that's you're not supposed to know which one's a dream and which one's reality. I think the whole point of this movie...
Well, Zach, I'm annoying person in the comments. That's a cop-out.
Are you David Lynch?
Okay, now I'm trying. I got to get a different voice.
Are you David Lynch?
Excuse me. Zach.
Yeah. Hello.
My name's Bill, the annoying commenter.
Hello, Bill.
So you just did a cop out there. You said there's no right answer. This doesn't sound like you, Zach. You're not a person who
But this is what Bill. Hey, Bill, listen. This is what I'll say. Don't talk. That sometimes the answer is that there is no right answer, and that there is a spectrum of things in this life, and that there is gray and not black nor white.
I can't believe you went woke, Zach. This is ridiculous. Talking about spectrums. Are we kidding?
Listen, Bill. Yeah. That's all I got. I'm sorry. If you don't like it, go listen to Wisecrack.
Bill, go. Yeah, you would love Wisecrack, Bill.
They are pretty black and white.
Yeah, but like in a very woke way.
Sure.
I'll say it. No, but you're right. They are more black. We're not viewing life through the lens of like everything has to be a reference to a certain philosopher.
No.
Which is such a I get the appeal of that. Okay. I love the idea of being like, this person just, they had this thought and it was so interesting. I like that. But at the same time, I'm like, it's also kind of boring too, to just be like, oh, this is Kierkegaardian and this is Nietzsche.
Like, when I die, am I going to think, oh, Nietzsche was right? No, I'm not. I'm going to think like, where's my family?
It was just some guy who was good at writing, or maybe not even that. Just wrote something that was.
I've been watching videos, like at least 8 hours of videos of Nietzsche's view on Christianity. It's crazy, man. He is such like a hardcore guy. Anyway. That's just beside the point. It's just my YouTube app. We share a YouTube now, which is hilarious.
Did you get YouTube Premium?
Oh, just for a month.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I saw that.
No ads, so we don't have to.
I was like, I might log on and use that.
No, use the LRN one.
Yeah, I should use the LRN
Why don't we share a YouTube?
We should share a YouTube.
I've been using that one. I thought you've been using it.
No, I haven't. I've been using mine.
Now, the algorithm is crazy right now. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty...
Well, we'll see how much crazier I can make it.
I'm pretty sure it's like Minecraft, Pokemon,
I might have to use mine
of death.
some because I need my NASCAR videos. And
no, you can input that into... But if you want a different algorithm for that, that's fine.
Yeah, it's all about the different algorithms.
That's fine. But at least come and check out the
I want to check out some of the stuff you're watching, so I will.
So I think theory C is the correct one. It's this idea that David Lynch is wedging in this in-between reality state, in between what is true and what is dream. And I think almost like David Lynch's marriages going in and out, David Lynch views reality the same way. He just doesn't think that... Like, David Lynch meditates early in the morning and doesn't see that as outside of his regular rhythm, right? He sees that he's accessing some part of his mind that is not within the physical realm while also being in the physical realm. So he doesn't believe that there's like a concrete difference between the physical and the metaphysical. And it's just interesting to display that in film, and to see someone's philosophy come into film so purely is really refreshing. We don't agree with David Lynch philosophically whatsoever, but it's really pure when someone's genuine like that. Like, the genuineness comes out, and we stand by the fact that David Lynch is the most genuine director.
I agree. And it's interesting how much people don't get him, and how much, even if you just get who he is a little bit, it makes his movies make a lot more sense, and it allows you to embrace them more. Because I was seeing everywhere like, oh, this director is crazy, like, what is going on here? Or like, why would you do, like, you wasted my time, all this stuff. Like, and of course you could. I mean, Lynch's movies aren't going to be for everyone. Like, I'm not expecting everyone to be like
Most people know.
like, but I wish more people would give it would open themselves up a little bit to try to understand it.
Mm-hmm. And watch each movie twice.
Yeah.
I think I need to rewatch
also
Wild at Heart.
Learn how to watch a movie and it not be like, and I get it's difficult because this movie is set up as a mystery. So that can be a movie that's set up like a mystery, but you're not supposed to solve it is like a little bit hard to understand if you're expecting, usually go to a mystery to be like,
maybe you should just
I want to get ahead of the mystery.
Expectations whatsoever.
I saw somebody write in a comment, oh man, this movie was so boring. Like, I didn't get it. It meandered and it didn't get solved. A director who can do this better is David Fincher. I was like, well, I get it if you're like, I like slick mystery movies, or I like slick thrillers. Like, he is good at that. Yeah. But that's not, David Lynch is not trying to make a slick thriller.
Keep it to Fight Club in the game.
Yeah, exactly. It blows your mind, but kind of in a different way.
Yeah, it blows your mind in like the twists.
Yeah.
David Lynch isn't about twists. He's about like, oh man, he just evoked that out of me.
And anything that's a twist is something that you were like, it's more of a puzzle. Yeah. And the twist is like the aha, I was supposed to see this coming. Like, or I would, that's the reason it's a twist. Yeah. So it makes sense that David Lynch doesn't really have twists in his movies because there's never supposed to be like all of it is like, I don't really understand what's happening. Like, I'm being immersed in this. I have to. So, and sure, okay, you could call it pretentious, but because Lynch is so genuine, I really don't think you can say it's pretentious. No. He's not in some place trying to think like, how can I make a movie that is so weird that people will just be frustrated by it? Like, no, he's not.
No, he's just having a good time.
This is like his genuine vision. So
it's like,
what if I made such a lazy criticism?
Me and my brother seeing a naked woman on a sidewalk.
You know what is pretentious?
Those people.
The Triangle of Sadness.
Yeah, you hate that film so much. Wow.
That movie is pretentious.
We will interview anyone that played a part in this movie.
Eventually, we're going to do a series on anti-capitalist films.
And that will be the first one we do.
That'll be the first one. We'll have to do Triangle of Sadness.
You'll just be ranting the whole episode.
And it's funny I picked that one to be like the punching bag for movies I don't like. But and I don't even know that I rated it that bad on Letterboxd, but I guess as it's aged with me, I've thought about it more and thought about how I didn't like it. And it's interesting because other directors who are in that same European vein, and maybe you could tie to anti-capitalism, like I'm trying to think like Yorgos Lanthimos maybe. Like I have liked them, and people hate some of those.
Well, he's
directors.
just a deconstructionist of all society.
That's true. So it doesn't feel like it's just
in The Lobster. You know what I mean?
It's not just capitalism. It's like everything. So
let's
maybe
deconstruct any type of structure.
Or it's just
society.
like, this is a weird cult. That was Kinds of Kindness was just like, here's 3 stories about weird power dynamics. Go.
Well, yeah. Whatever.
But it didn't feel like it was trying to make a strong, like, super obvious political point. I think that's what annoys me.
I have a great question.
Yeah.
What does the Neanderthal represent?
Oh, the Neanderthal in this movie. Ooh. So we got Winky's Diner scene, right? Mm-hmm. Which everyone talks about, which we haven't talked about at all. So I'm glad you brought it up. Mm-hmm. So that scene's famous because it tells you exactly what's going to happen, and then it happens. And it's, it's going to be off-putting, but you're not really prepared for the Neanderthal character. Mm-hmm. I don't know then we see that character again at the end of the movie with that really weird, with the box, right? And then the tiny people come out of the box. It's like what there were the people at the start of the movie. You're like, okay, David, you're just too much for my brain. I can't. So I don't know. I don't know if they have a strong like feeling of what the
I'm not exactly sure. So this is what Google
is.
AI
It just supposed
says.
to be like the personification of dread?
It's the personification of inner self and psychological dissent and guilt. That's what Google AI says.
That's not a bad synopsis, Google AI. I'm kind of impressed.
It's the darker, more primal aspects of Diane's psyche, because he's a stark contrast to the more glamorous and aspirational parts of the dream world that she is having. That's if theory A is correct.
Yes.
And the first part is a dream.
Which I think is the generally accepted standard interpretation of Mulholland Drive.
So that's what Naomi Watts actually believes is theory A.
Yeah. So when we say theory A, it's like that's like the standard theory that a majority of videos that you watch will be like, this is kind of like.
I just put theory B in there just because it's possible, but it's less realistic.
So I think that's also what people don't understand about Mulholland Drive is that yes, there is kind of like a more of an accepted narrative. It's not quite like Inland Empire, which people don't talk as much about anyway. So there might just not have been enough people to critique it for there to be a standard narrative that developed for it. Because this movie did also get talked about a lot because it was so. Well, I don't know how commercially popular it was, but like now that it's been out for 24 years and it's been hailed as one of the best movies, like everybody anyone who reviews movies has watched Mulholland Drive. So
yeah, so I doubt this will get many clicks on this episode because there are so many reviews out there.
Yeah, there's too many, and we'll be buried at the bottom. But if you find us, we're happy that you found us.
Do you have any final thoughts on this film, Ben?
Man, this is a great movie.
I could talk about it a lot more.
I know.
But for the sake of our listeners.
I'm kind of sad.
Yeah. I'm sad that we're done with David.
Maybe when we do our David Lynch Redux, where we review all of them again.
Hey, I'm down.
I would rather review all David Lynch movies again than review some other movies.
Triangle of Sadness. Yep.
Although there are a lot of good movies. And
it's just funny.
David Lynch is not the best. Well, David Lynch is not the only good director. He is my favorite director.
Really?
I think it's pretty clear now.
Wow.
I think it's sort of, you know how Donnie Darko is my favorite movie, and
it's more of a feeling.
And Donnie, it's a feeling.
You're using a David framework.
You have to, and as someone who ranks things and does all this stuff with things, it all comes down to feelings at the end.
It's funny because you can rank all day, and Donnie Darko won't be at the top of the list of the best films.
No.
But you can't say that your favorites aren't the ones that you feel the best about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Donnie Darko is an excellent movie. I would not put it up there as one of the greatest movies ever made.
No.
But you're right. The feeling
maybe the director's cut
evokes, yeah, for sure. Which brings me to another random final thought, which is that 2001 was a great year for movies.
Yes, it was.
Because three of my favorite movies came out this year: Donnie Darko, this movie, Mulholland Drive, and as much as I've joked about it, I do love Memento.
I have a theory that the end and beginning of the millennium was the best time for movies ever. 1999, 2000, 2001. I think post 9/11 movies went downhill. By the way,
Donnie Darko
we brought up Kanye, Musk, 9/11. There's Hitler.
There's no holds barred on the movie vault anymore.
Nothing.
So that's kind of my final thought. I think if someone were to say, where do I start with David Lynch? I wouldn't say Mulholland Drive.
No.
But at the same time, if somebody asked me, what movie would show me who David Lynch is, I would say Mulholland Drive.
Yes, but if you're start with Eraserhead, I think.
Really?
I think just go in order.
I mean, yeah, go in order. I think if you were to be like, what movie would be the classic starting point for David Lynch, I would say Blue Velvet.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. That's like his first real cult success. I mean, yeah, Eraserhead, but I think you're right. Like, just watch it in order.
I think it's the best way. If you have time to watch them all 10 of them, watch them in order. Wait to watch Fire Walk with Me until you watch Twin Peaks, both seasons.
Yeah, watch that in order too.
Yeah.
Wild at Heart, then both seasons of Twin Peaks, then Fire Walk with Me. You're gonna be frustrated with us, but you'll be like, I'm never gonna get to Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, you're like, what does the Martells having affairs have to do with David Lynch?
Well, everyone has an affair in Twin Peaks, so you'll learn a lot.
Everyone has an affair in every David Lynch work.
Nobody is faithful in David Lynch's world
because it's all just a spectrum.
Yep.
I don't have any final thoughts. I think I'm gonna miss doing David Lynch stuff. I think he's also my favorite director, but I leave open the possibility that someone could match him. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it would be hard for it to happen from an emotional standpoint. There are definitely directors who I'm like, I think their body of work like is just as strong or
we
stronger.
Just came off of Malick.
We came off Malick. I mean, Scorsese has a strong body of work. Kurosawa has a strong body of work.
Yeah. We've only scratched the surface.
We haven't even.
Kurosawa.
I think Fellini is someone who is coming up in my mind. If I watch more of his movies, who could like really scratch an itch that is somewhat similar to Lynch that I will also like. But it's hard to imagine someone really,
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay. Lynch was just so unique, and I think he was super unique when you're considering American film too. Because I think if you looked at European film, you could find more directors who are like kind of doing weird, surreal things. But then sometimes I think those directors like don't have the same like heart that Lynch has. There's a lot more cynicism in some of the work.
I do have a final thought.
So yeah, go ahead.
So he started with this Midwestern American dream type film. That's like the first half of his filmography. Then moves into the Hollywood films once he moves to L.A. Right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's obviously
Straight Story kind of veered back into Midwestern.
That was a commissioned movie, though.
You're right.
So I don't include that in his creative vision, although that movie is beautiful. Probably his most beautiful. I mean, the other films were on digital camera, and you know what I mean. They were intentionally not beautiful, but anyway, that's beside the point.
Sorry,
he shifts from the American Midwest, where he kind of grew up area. Was it Oklahoma?
He grew up in Montana.
Montana, that's right. I guess it's not Midwest, but anyway. And then kind of moves and shifts to the California region in LA. And the movies, you can kind of see like a split. And I don't know where it happens, maybe between Blue Velvet and the rest? Right? Or would it be from, because Wild at Heart, Lost Highway, Blue Velvet, and then would it be after that his Hollywood films? You got Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire?
Well, Lost Highway is kind of in his Hollywood films.
But Lost Highway is the last one. Okay, because it goes Lost Highway, then Mulholland Drive, then Inland Empire.
Yeah,
right?
Those are all.
So I'm saying
LA,
like the latter
Hollywood.
three is kind of like a shift more west, and I'm just thinking like he kind of shifts from this perspective of the ordinary, and that being extraordinary and deep and meaningful. Right? You can think of like Eraserhead, the idea of fatherhood, a basic concept, and kind of exploring that in a deep, kind of dark and disgusting way, all the way to Wild at Heart, just displaying love as if it's in hell, right? And then also, then you move into his Hollywood era, the last three films, his trilogy, and it's kind of basically more specifically about the film industry. It's like his focus really shifts over the course of his career. And I guess it's more because that's the context of who he's around a lot more. And he kind of focuses in on his immediate surroundings and not necessarily on a concept that is, more foreign to him. Like David Lynch could talk an hour about plaster that he's putting on the floor in a video that I watched, and it's just like the whole concept that he's trying to explain to people as if they don't know is that plaster goes on the floor and it sticks things, and he explains it in like 5 different ways for like an hour, and it's like that's his immediate context. He's interested in it and he explains it, he displays it well, and it's interesting to watch because of the way that he thinks and goes about it. But you can see that shift in his career, and I kind of just realized that. Like, I know there is this Hollywood trilogy, but I didn't realize that it kind of starts all Midwestern and shifts into that Hollywood.
Yeah.
So there's kind of 2 phases in my mind of, if you wanted only make 2 phases, you can split it up with his first 7 films and then his last 3.
Yeah.
That's just my thoughts. And you can exclude Elephant Man and The Straight Story and Dune if you want. And then just have 3 and 3.
That's the thing. Yeah,
or
you
4
just
and
have
3.
Yeah, 4 and 3. I'd say he does have 3 films that are more like commissioned work that weren't like really based on his just initial creative version. And we could lament the fact that we don't have Ronnie Rocket and we don't have the Saliva Bubble movie that that we it's too bad. But sometimes you realize, like, who knows? Those would have been flops. Like,
we don't know. Could have been another Dune. But even the Elephant Man has hints of future Hollywood type film, right? You have this guy who's kind of playing a character, who's kind of a character, John Merrick, and then like the abuse that he has behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Like, and then Straight Story is very Midwestern.
They're making a new version of the Elephant Man.
I know.
With the guy from that one movie who's going to play John Merrick, who has a deformed face in real life.
Yeah, and he kind of really looks like John Merrick.
Yeah.
He was in a movie with Sebastian Stan. I forget what it's called.
I forget what it's called. It's kind of about like his or like circumstance. I mean, the circumstance that he's in.
I hope it's good because Lynch's is kind of,
but it's also not
4.5 star film.
It's not a movie I'm like mad about them remaking as much If they tried to remake like Blue Velvet, I would be mad.
No. You can't remake David Lynch films.
Yeah, I know, but you're like, who would be crazy enough to think that they could do that? So.
Well, I think there was a previous Elephant Man before that as well. Before David
Well, there
Lynch's.
was like a play. Yeah. I think it was a
The
little
concept
bit before.
already existed.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's not like this is.
And you can't redo the straight story because McFarlane's performance was literally as he was about to die. That's like something magical you can't recreate. So,
yeah, that's true.
yeah. That's my final thought. I can do my quick movie highlights.
Yeah, because I don't have any. I was just slacking this week, I guess.
it's okay.
I have been watching The Sopranos though, and we just got Netflix again, so bit the bullet on that. So gonna be watching some Seinfeld probably.
Nice. I watched Wicked Part 1. Not bad. 3.5 stars. Really not bad at all. Production design, very high quality.
Yeah, it does look like a very nice looking movie.
Seemed like they had a high budget on this film. I think it was like 100, almost 200 mil. How to Train Your Dragon, I rewatched a couple nights ago because I know the new one's coming out later this summer. I just wanted to get ahead of the game so I didn't have to think about it the week before, you know. Fight Club, 5-star film, amazing. Watched it with Micah. Oh my goodness, so good. That was my first time watching it, Ben.
So good. Oh my goodness.
First time watching it.
Now you can
Tyler
go back
Durden
and listen.
is so good.
Listen to Jake and I's review.
That's the only one I haven't listened to yet.
I'm so curious what
you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's who knows?
That's all I have. So I think I plan to watch Inland Empire tonight.
Really?
I think so. Because I got to be up at 4 or 5 anyway. So
you're tempting me.
Yeah, maybe. But hey, listen, Inland Empire is going to be watched by me probably once a year. I think I'm going to make that commitment.
I do. I want to watch it again because I think I'll have it.
I think I want that to be the movie that I rewatch so much where I understand everything or I have theories about every scene, and nobody wants to watch it with me. And when I force my friends to watch it with me, like we did a couple years ago, they hate it. I want them to hate it. I want to feel so pretentious. I want to feel like I have all the power.
Yeah, it is.
That's what this is all about.
The Inland Empire is pretentious, but that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
So. All right, David, can you lead us into the vault? Oh, do get insurance with Hedman Anglin Agency. 614-486-7300.
614-486-7300.
There was a car accident in this. So
that's true.
That
reminds me,
is a lesson.
I need to contact my agent from there because my car is totaled now.
All right, well, we'll let you get to that then. All right, joking. But Zach, remember, it's all rooted in love.
Thank you.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if your car's intact or not.
The best people are named David.
That's so true. All right, I'm closing the vault now.